This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman.
And I'm Nermeen Sheikh. Welcome to our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world. The longtime Fox News star Bill O'Reilly is out after more than half a dozen women accused him of sexual harassment. His departure follows the similar ouster of longtime powerful Fox News CEO Roger Ailes, who was also forced out this past summer after more than 20 women accused him of sexual harassment. Over 50 advertisers boycotted the O'Reilly factor. Over revelations, O'Reilly and Fox paid $13 million to settle lawsuits by 5 women who accuse O'Reilly of sexual harassment and inappropriate sexual behavior. A 6th woman, Dr. Wendy Walsh, has also accused O'Reilly of harassing her and then retaliating against her professionally when she refused to have sex with him.
On Tuesday, a 7th woman, who remains anonymous, accused O'Reilly of harassing her for months with sexually and racially offensive comments and actions. The woman is an African-American clerical worker who worked near O'Reilly. She alleges O'Reilly would make grunting noises like an animal and call her hot chocolate. Outside of News Corp's New York headquarters Wednesday, protesters handed out flyers reading, "Danger, sexual predator works here," and packets of hot chocolate. Color of Change senior campaign manager Annika Collier-Navaroli responded to the news of O'Reilly's ouster.
At this point, we are so happy that he is gone and he's no longer going to be able to spit all of his vile comments and everything that comes out of his mouth that's disparaging not only to women, but specifically to black women and to black folks all over the world. So we're very happy to see that he'll be off the air, but we're not done. We're going to keep applying pressure and making sure that what's coming out of these airways and what's happening in these hallways is respectful and making sure that women everywhere are given dignity. While news about Bill O'Reilly's dismissal was making headlines Wednesday, he was at the Vatican, where he briefly met the Pope. For more, we're joined by Lisa Bloom, civil rights attorney at the Bloom firm. She represents 3 women who've accused Bill O'Reilly of unwanted sexual advances. She is one of the women who's being credited with bringing Bill O'Reilly down. Lisa Bloom, it's very good to have you with us. Explain what happened.
Wendy Walsh came to me several months ago and told me that the New York Times wanted to publish her story, and all of her friends were saying to her, "Don't do it. He's going to come after you. This is going to be very scary." She asked me what I thought. I said, "You absolutely have to do it, Wendy. You have to do this for your daughters. You have to do this for other women. I know you're scared, but I will stand with you at no charge. And not only that, Wendy, but we are going to bring him down." I promised her that months ago. 3 weeks ago, the story broke with Wendy. We had a media and a legal strategy in place. We executed it for the last 18 days, and yesterday he announced, or the company announced, that he had been fired. I think the plan went flawlessly.
What was the plan?
The plan was, first of all, we have to keep this story in the news. We can't just let it be a one-day story, and that's what it would have been. So Wendy and I did a press conference. Again, she was very scared. We shored her up. We had to do a press conference and make this story be big so that other accusers would call me. As an attorney, I can't call them, and I didn't know who they were anyway, right? But we had to keep this story going. So we released bits of it day by day, giving the story legs, as we say in journalism. A second accuser did call me, but I needed time to vet her story. I needed to talk to her witnesses. I needed to look at her evidence. I needed to shore her up emotionally. All of these women are very scared. We got her sister in place. We got her 3 witnesses interviewed, and I was ready to come forward with her. She got scared. I went to North Carolina. I met with her. We shored her up, and we came out with her story a couple days ago. A 3rd accuser, a 4th accuser came out. I tweeted and I said on many shows that the Murdochs had only one choice, and that was to fire Bill O'Reilly. And if they didn't, we would continue relentlessly, day after day, having more and more accusers come out publicly. We were not going to let this go. We were going to persist.
Well, Fox News has said no one has complained about Bill O'Reilly on its hotline. So recently, you and your client, Wendy Walsh, officially called in her complaint. This clip begins with the hotline's automated response.
And now, in 1 or 2 sentences, could you please give me the primary reason for your report?
Yes. In 2013, I experienced sexual harassment as a job applicant at Fox News Channel by an employee named Mr. Bill O'Reilly.
Hello, ma'am?
Yes.
Thank you so much for your patience. And now, is this your first time calling this line?
Yes, it is.
And how did you become aware of our phone number?
My attorney, Lisa Bloom, found the phone number in your employee ethics handbook.
And what state was this in?
California.
Okay, and you said the person that you were wishing to report is first name Bill, B-I-L-L?
Yes.
How do you spell his last name?
Capital O, apostrophe, capital R, E-I-L-L-Y.
So can you explain why this hotline was significant and how it played into this case?
Well, as a longtime feminist attorney, I know that I have to do more than just look narrowly at the law. And Wendy's claims were, in fact, time-barred because there's a 3-year statute of limitations in New York, and her claims arose from 2013. And I thought, what else can I do? Well, Fox News gave me a wonderful gift the first day this story broke, and that is they did a public statement. No one has ever called our hotline. And a little light bulb went off over my head. Hotline, aha! I've had prior sexual harassment cases against Fox News. I had their handbook in my file. I pulled it out, found the hotline number, and I also looked at their internal rules, which had no time deadlines to call the hotline. And I also knew, as a feminist attorney, that once we internally complained, they would have to do an investigation. So Wendy and I made that call. She was very brave. I had my assistant videotape it so that nobody could say later, oh, we didn't get the call. We posted that online to give the story some legs that day, to put some public shaming pressure on Fox News. Well, a couple of days later, the attorneys called us, and then I had all the witness information and evidence in place to give them, and I was already working on accuser number 2 and accuser number 3.
And this means it goes to the law firm that was supposedly doing an investigation
Yes.
of Fox?
Yes.
That the Murdochs said they would comply with what they said?
Yes, that's the Paul Weiss law firm. They represent the company. They weren't doing an independent investigation, as has been falsely reported some other places. And I knew them, again, from some other cases. I knew what was important to them. And I also had accuser number 2 a couple of days ago phone into the hotline. She chose to do it anonymously, which is an option available to her. Every woman gets to make her own choice. I support that. And yesterday, I had accuser number 3 call into the hotline. So I had the hotline on speed dial by this week.
Well, let's go to what these cases were all about, because now we're just talking about the accusers. But I do think it's important, as people understand what is acceptable in a workplace, what is abuse. Let's go to Dr. Wendy Walsh in her own words, describing what happened after O'Reilly offered her a job at Fox News over dinner.
So when dinner was finished, he simply said, let's get out of here. I assumed he meant that we should move to the bar to continue our conversation about my career at Fox News. And so he caught up with me and said, no, come back to my suite. At that point, you know, I'm a woman of a certain age. I've had situations like this in my life. I knew how to behave. And I simply said, I'm sorry, I can't do that. And he immediately got defensive and said, what do you mean? You think I'm going to attack you or something? And then very soon after, he had the executive producer of the show call me and say that they're going to take a break from the segment for a little while, but they'd start up again later. Well, they did with the other psychologist, but not me, but I knew it was coming.
So talk about Dr. Wendy Walsh's case, why this was so important and damaging, and then the other people you've represented and the ones that settled. I mean, you have Bill O'Reilly responding yesterday, I don't know if it was before or after he met with the Pope, saying that the accusations were unfounded. But he personally and Fox News have settled, what was it, 5 cases for over $13 million of women who've accused him of sexual harassment.
And listen, Fox News, which had every economic motivation to take his side, found, in fact, that the allegations were well-founded. They looked at our evidence. They talked to our witnesses. I was very actively behind the scenes working with them on the investigation. I was on the phone with them when they interviewed some of our witnesses. The witnesses came through and said, yes, Wendy told me the next day in 2013 that she'd had dinner with Bill O'Reilly. He had offered her a job. When she refused to go back to his hotel room with him, he said, you know, you're on your own. You're not getting that job. He became very cold and mean to her. And ultimately, these cases, like all of the sexual harassment cases I've been doing for 30 years, are about women's equality in the workplace. It's about our right to be treated with respect and to have our careers. You know, most of us can withstand a comment or two that we don't like, but when our jobs are threatened because we don't sleep with the boss, that's at a whole other level. And that's been going on, according to multiple women with Bill O'Reilly and others at Fox News, for a very long time. And I was very angry about that. I was very motivated. I knew the first accuser in 2004 and how Bill O'Reilly treated her, bringing his lawyers out to sue her, trashing her publicly through the different media outlets that they owned. You know, enough is enough. It was time to do something. I'm glad I could be part of it.
Well, I want to read Bill O'Reilly's statement yesterday. He wrote, quote, "It is tremendously immensely disheartening that we part ways due to completely unfounded claims, but that is the unfortunate reality many of us in the public eye must live with today. I will always look back on my time at Fox with great pride in the unprecedented success we achieved, and with my deepest gratitude to all my dedicated viewers. I wish only the best for Fox News Channel.
Can I just say something about that? You know, Sean Hannity, we never hear any complaints about him as a sexual harasser. Tucker Carlson, Matt Lauer. I mean, there are many prominent, wealthy men in the media who have zero complaints for sexual harassment. It's only Bill O'Reilly, over and over and over again, by women, several of whom have had tapes, reportedly, of him calling and being very sexually explicit on the phone, propositioning them, telling them what he wanted to do with them sexually. It has nothing to do with him being in the public eye. It's about his conduct and his behavior. He doesn't get it. I don't expect he will ever get it. I don't expect an apology, but I'm glad he's out of a job.
And then you also have the racial discrimination charges against him. Explain those.
Yes, that's very important. That's my African-American client. She lives in North Carolina. She's going to be talking publicly today for the first time later on in the day. And she alleges that in 2008, she was a temp for 6 months at Fox News, working for another individual there who she said was a great boss. But Bill O'Reilly, she says, would come by her workstation when no one else was around. He would leer at her cleavage in a very noticeable way. He would say, looking good, girl. And he had a nickname for her, Hot Chocolate, which she said was, she found out to be plantational. She found that to be very offensive. And she was scared. And that's something I want people to understand, is the fear. When you have somebody as powerful and wealthy as Bill O'Reilly coming after a temp, you know, who's just working day to day, you know, just to make a paycheck to survive, she just kept her head down. She was frozen, as she describes it. She didn't say a word to him. She just really wanted to keep her job.
Now, this goes higher than Bill O'Reilly, though he was the Fox News star. In a recent interview with the New York Times, President Trump talked about Bill O'Reilly, saying, quote, "I think he's a person I know well. He's a good person. I think he shouldn't have settled. Personally, I think he shouldn't have settled because you should have taken it all the way. I don't think Bill did anything wrong."
So a couple of things about that. Notice that he doesn't say, "I don't think O'Reilly did it." He says, "I don't think he did anything wrong." And I think Trump is being very honest there. He does not think that sexual harassment is wrong. And as for settlements, I represented 4 of the women accusing Trump of sexual misconduct during the campaign. And I can tell you that he settled a sexual harassment case with my client, Jill Harth, back in the 1990s. So, you know, we know this is a man who'll just say anything. Jill Harth worked on a beauty pageant in the early 1990s, and she alleged in a federal lawsuit that she had filed back then that he took her into Ivanka's room. Ivanka was a little girl at the time. She wasn't home, pushed her up against the wall, put his hands up her skirt, groped her, grabbed her, made a lot of sexually explicit comments to her, some of which were witnessed by her then husband. They've since divorced, but her husband supports her to this day. He remembers what he heard and what he saw. And Jill Harth was very brave to speak out last year. She was the first accuser to come out, and I stood with her.
Well, I want to ask you, you mentioned earlier the question of financial incentives that Fox News had, both for retaining him and for sacking him. According to some estimates, Fox News lost $446 million when all these advertisers pulled out. But New York Magazine has suggested that there's another reason that he was taken out, 21st Century Fox's planned takeover of the European pay TV company Sky TV. The deal is said to be worth $14 billion. And British media regulator Ofcom is set to judge whether the Murdochs are, quote, fit and proper to own such a big company. So could you talk about that and how these...
I sent a letter to Ofcom. So I told you that, you know, I try to think holistically and globally and not just very narrowly. And some UK activists who are trying to block that very deal that you just mentioned reached out to me a couple of weeks ago and said, will you help us? We don't want Fox News to come here. We want Ofcom, the regulator, to know about what's going on in the U.S. because it wasn't being widely reported there. So I took the time to send a very detailed letter to Ofcom, letting them know about the rampant toxic culture of sexual harassment and retaliation against women at Fox News, at 21st Century Fox. I sent that letter, and I've connected with the activists, and they delivered the letter personally to Avcom. And I felt that was another pressure point that we could put on to get Bill O'Reilly fired, and also, on a larger point, to get them to clean up this toxic culture and actually respect the concept that we women have rights in the U.S. We have the right to be treated as equals in the workplace, and those laws should be enforced everywhere, including at Fox News.
Back to Donald Trump, because this is extremely significant. Two men supported him enormously, a whole network. I mean, Roger Ailes, even after he was forced out, what now, 20 women have accused Roger Ailes. He was quietly, until there was a lot of consternation expressed, advising candidate Donald Trump. And then you have Bill O'Reilly. And you have the Donald Trump scandal. I want to go to just the clip from Access Hollywood. This was years ago, and how significant this is. In fact, describing the M.O. that he attacked your client with, right? Saying, reaching under her skirt. Yes. This is, well, now the President of the United States, Donald Trump, caught on tape.
Yeah, that's her, with the gold. I better use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy. I can do anything.
So he's talking to Billy Bush, who was at Access Hollywood. Ultimately, he was fired by NBC, Billy Bush, and Donald Trump became president. But the significance of this, you say you've represented a number of women who accused Donald Trump. He said he would sue them after the election.
Well,
what's happened?
We knew that was another lie. I knew it at the time. I said on Twitter, if he sues any of them, I'll represent them for free, and I will subpoena all of his records and those of all of his enablers. And we will get the tapes. We have heard rumors about these tapes from The Apprentice, where he may have said the N-word. He knew that we would get a tough response from us. We would crowdfund the defense costs. Thousands and thousands of people said, I will help you. I mean, it's just another one of Trump's lies.
So the question is where this all goes from there. I was looking at reliable sources, Brian Stetler's newsletter, who says Dylan Byers' emails, are Fox's problems over? Not necessarily. With Ailes and O'Reilly out, attention is likely to turn to Bill Shine, the Fox News co-president and longtime right-hand man to Ailes. Shine, a key figure at Fox, has been accused by at least two of Ailes' accusers of being intimately involved with efforts to protect the former news chief. Moreover, as co-president, he had a direct role in re-upping O'Reilly's contract earlier this year, despite the company's knowledge of the previous accusations. I mean, knowledge, they were paying out. So the question about who else is in there, and is that is the New York State investigation continuing around where this money, millions of dollars that's going to pay off settlements, do the shareholders know?
Right. So Bill Shine has been accused more than twice of being Roger Ailes' lieutenant and part of the cover-up and part of the conspiracy and driving women out and paying them hush money and doing nothing to address the culture of sexual harassment. And, of course, all of the enablers have to go if they're really going to clean house. You know, what true justice would be, in my view, would be actually to bring back all of the women who lost their jobs merely for complaining about sexual harassment. Of course, that's never going to happen. I called for another investigation because, yes, the investigation into the funds and how they're being paid and how they're being earmarked, I mean, that's somewhat interesting, I guess, to the shareholders. I don't really care about 21st century shareholders. I care about the women and the people who are working there. And I thought to myself, there has to be an agency to come in and do a real investigation. What agency might that be? I called upon the State Division of Human Rights in New York, which is entrusted by law to protect the human rights of all of the workers here in New York. And I wrote them a lengthy letter detailing all of the publicly available information and asked them to do their own investigation and gave them the code section that empowers them to do that. So far, they haven't taken me up on it, but I'm doing a social media campaign to get them to go in there, do the independent investigation. You know, this is a problem hiding in plain sight. Obviously, the laws are not enough to. This is a very wealthy company. They just pay women off over and over again, but they don't do anything to change the culture. Women's rights are human rights, just like Hillary Clinton said long ago. And I think the State Division of Human Rights should get in there and investigate. investigate.
Are there going to be a lot more suits against O'Reilly, even if he's out, and Fox for hosting him as he hosted?
My phone has been ringing off the hook, even though phones aren't on hooks anymore. And we have talked to a lot of women, and we're very happy to talk to them. And I think, yes, there will probably be many more suits.
I want to thank you, Lisa Bloom, for being with us, civil rights attorney at the Bloom firm, representing 3 women who've accused Bill O'Reilly of unwanted sexual advances. This is Democracy Now! We'll be back in a minute.